Hi guys, it's me, Miss Mary, just coming in for a landing. I saw this uh, saying the other day, and it really pricked my heart. And it said, "You don't know the choices I had. All you saw was the decision that I made." I like that. I'm going to say it again. You don't know the choices that I had. All you saw was the decision that I made. And that reminds me, and I think about sometimes like when we're in the grocery store, we see a mom with kids, or not necessarily always a mom too. There's lots of single dads out there doing the best that they can. Or we'll see a single dad, or we'll just see a mom and a dad, because everybody, a lot of people with two parents in the house are still struggling, you know. And let's just say you see this person at the grocery store. Let's say you see a mom or you see a dad with a kid. You know what I'm saying? And the kid is saying, "I'm hungry, I'm hungry." Well, we don't know that dad might have had $20 and he probably put $15 in the gas tank. And all he had is $5 in the store. And so when the kid said, "I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry," and he reaches and he gives that kid that Snickers, and you're thinking to yourself, he should have bought him an apple or an orange. That don't make no sense. That's what's wrong with these kids now. Maybe that $5 had to get a loaf of bread and a can of tuna. And the only thing that was left was 75 cents to get that candy bar. Because the baby said they were hungry. We didn't see the choices that he had. We didn't see that. All we saw was the decision that he made. And his decision was to buy the baby a candy bar. And we saw some bread and we saw a can of tuna. We don't know that he just took his last $20 and put 15 in the gas tank, and he only had 5 here at the store. You don't know the decision, the choices that people have. All we see is the decision that they made. I think about the time too that we were members of this church, a nice church, and I had 4 kids and I was a divorced mom. And when Easter would come around, I wouldn't have it like that. I couldn't buy my babies brand new suits, my boys, and get my girls new dresses. But there were people in the church that had it like that. And not only did they have it like that, remember we moved here and I came here and I didn't have family here. I had no one. It was just me. And so the church that we belonged to, a lot of times the kids' grandparents were there, and they had other people, uncles, cousins, whatever. They had other family members. They had extended family in that church, whereas my kids didn't have extended family. And so what I would do is when Easter would come, because I wouldn't have the money to get my kids, my girls, a new dress, because if we was going to go on Easter, she was going to have to wear that dress she wore 3 weeks ago or a month ago. And they were going to have to wear the same shoes. And my son was going to have to wear that shirt that I was going to press real nice for him and those pants. So because you didn't see the choices I had. So what I would do is every Easter, and I just told my kids this not too long ago, and they was like, "Is that why we used to always go home for Easter until you got married and then we stopped going to Lansing?" Yeah. So what I would do is I would take them home and we would go to a little small church that I used to be a member of. And because at that church, those kids didn't know that my daughter didn't have on a new dress. They didn't know that her shoes were old. They didn't know that my son didn't have on a new suit, because I would press the heck out of it. I would make it look new, even if it didn't look new, even if it wasn't new. I know how to iron. I know how to put starch on things. I know how to put creases and stuff. So when I would come back, I had this friend and she had 4 children. And she would say to me, why did you go home? Why every time? I think she began to notice that every time, like for the last 3, 4 years, I go home for Easter. She didn't see the choices because I didn't have a choice to buy my kids new things. And maybe I had enough money to buy one and come buy the other. So you know that wasn't going to fly with Miss Mary, right? Nobody's going in there. It's either we all got new stuff on or we all got old stuff on. So she didn't know the choices I had. That I had to pay the light bill and that I had to pay the gas bill. I couldn't take that money and go get my kids new outfits. But I could put some gas in the tank and take them to Lansing, and we would go to church there. That way my kids was never embarrassed. It was never made fun of or anything like that. Not to say that the kids would have, but you know what I mean? I knew Easter was a time of when children was going to have on new things, and I just didn't want my kids to stick out like that. So when you see somebody in the store and they're buying something that's unhealthy to you, or you think, wow, why don't they put their garbage in a trash bag? Maybe you might see her and she's just putting all her garbage inside of the bags that you get from Kroger's or Myers or Walmart. Maybe she can't afford to buy the trash bags that cost $8 to $10. You don't know the choices that she had to take that $8 to $10 and try to buy some ground beef and then get a pack of chicken wings. We don't know the choices that people have. All we see is the decision. And we're ready to accuse them based on their decision. I was in a very, very bad abusive relationship with my first husband. And all people saw was the choices that I made. They didn't see the choices that I had as far as every time I would decide and really get it in my mind I was going to leave, then I find out I was pregnant. Well, there goes another decision. Might as well ride it out for another 9 months. Give me 9 months. I'll try again. People are so easy to judge when we don't know. You just don't know that maybe. I remember when we used to have your gas and your electric. Do you remember that? Now, you young people, y'all should remember this because this ain't been that long. I remember one time, it's probably been about 20 years now. I was standing in line. This was when you used to go down to DTE and pay your bill in person. I was down there to pay my bill in person one time. And I was standing in line, and they was giving out paper and letting us know that your lights and gas bill was going to be combined now, and that it was going to be all together. And I'll never forget it. There was a man in front of me. And I was like, oh, that's good. I'm glad. It's just all going to be one big bill. And he turned around and he said, ma'am, it might be good for you, but that ain't good for everybody. And I said, what? He said, that might be good for you because you can afford to pay yours, but that ain't good for everybody. He said, sometimes by them keeping it separate, in the summertime, you can let the gas go off because you don't use gas. You don't need to heat the house. You know what I mean? If you got an electric stove, you could still cook. Sometimes people have to make a decision between the lights and the gas. I'm going to pay the light bill because it's summertime so we can keep the lights on. I'm going to let the gas bill go because we don't need the heat anyway. But by them combining it, now when you don't pay your bill, your gas and your lights go off. You're going to lose both. He said sometimes you used to be able to kind of get around and nobody would even know that your gas was off because you still had lights on. So now everybody's going to know that you didn't pay your gas nor your lights because they combined it. I thought it was a great thing, but he quickly checked me and I told him, thank you. And you're right. Everybody can't afford to pay it. So once they combined it, and if your gas and your electric is together and it's $250, you got to pay it. Make arrangements. Otherwise, when they shut it off, they were shutting it all off. So sometimes we have to be real careful, even Miss Mary. Because sometimes what works for you and makes your life easier doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. I saw the convenience of it. Whew, because Miss Mary don't like bills. And if I can get it all in one scoop, I want it all in one scoop. But at the same time, Miss Mary had to recognize that by them combining everything, and you know what? It takes me back to what's going on now. Right now in my home, if we don't pay our cable bill, we'll lose our phone, our landline, we'll lose the internet, and we'll lose the cable. That's 3 hits to my house that you're going to know. I'm going to feel the impact of that because now they're trying to put everything all together. So now you don't really get a choice, at least where I live at. I don't know, for some people, they still have consumer power and some people still have DTE for their electric and some people have consumer power for their gas. So we just have to be careful. We have to be very, very sensitive to other people. Don't ever, ever lose empathy for one another. Did you guys see the movie Straws? I love that movie. And I loved how the manager had so much empathy, even though she lived in her big, beautiful house. And she had her 2 children and she had a husband. She never lost empathy for the people who had less than, who didn't have what she had. And that's the thing we have to remember. Everybody ain't on the same train, baby. Everybody ain't going west. Some people going east. Some people going south. Some people going north. And when I'm using that as a metaphor, we don't know where people are at. Everybody ain't on easy street. Some people struggling. Some people can barely make it. And that's why Miss Mary tells you, I know what it's like to put $2 worth of gas in the car. And I know what it's like to put $20 of gas in the car. And I know what it's like to say, fill her up. And it ain't nothing like fill her up. It ain't nothing like it. The peace of mind that comes with it, that I can just jump in my car and I can drive wherever. I don't have to look at the gas hand and say, oh, I hope I don't run out of gas. Oh my God. Or somebody call, hey, can you meet me over here? Where's that? Oh, girl, I ain't got enough gas to be running way across town. Girl, this gas got to last me all week. I just put $20 in there. I didn't get but 10 gallons. And this guy lasts me all week to payday. When you see somebody pull up and they put $2 in there, don't you dare judge them. Don't you dare look at them with that. All you see is the decision that they made. You don't know their choices. Maybe they just got their car fixed. Maybe the car just cost them $500. They ain't got no more money. Maybe they just paid their rent. All you see is the decision that people make. Me can pull up here and just put $2 worth of gas in the car, wasting my time. We don't know what people are going through. So in this time of the year, this time of season, let's not lose empathy. Let's be compassionate. Let's care about one another. Just realize, like my mama said, all that glitters and gold. Every eye shed ain't sleep. And things ain't always as they appear to be. It ain't always the way you see it. All right, guys, this Miss Mary coming in for a landing. Just sharing nuggets, just dropping them along the way. Because what's Miss Mary's goal? To die empty. I want to empty it all out to you. And I want you to eat the meat and throw out the bones. All right, guys, this is Miss Mary. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for your time. Thank you for subscribing. I just thank you for showing up. Thank you for letting me know that you hear me and you see me.